This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
Welcome to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and it is it's an okay Wednesday here.
Starting to get chilly again now.
Yeah,
we're done with snow. I think it's coming, right?
Supposed to be coming again tonight. I guess we'll see where that goes. But Super Bowl week, and as it is Super Bowl week, you get a lot of people out there talking about different stuff. And as it is, the Steelers typically move the needle when talking about different things. And Matt, this happened earlier in the week, and we didn't talk about it, but I wanted to get to it here today. So Julian Edelman and Matt Patricia had a podcast together, and they were talking about playing against the Steelers. And Julian Edelman said that the Steelers, well, they never made any adjustments. They still had linebackers covering the slot all the time, and I would go out and have 9 catches against them every game. Well, A, that's not true. B, but here's why I bring it up, because people have now brought it up as something that is happening today with the Steelers. They're trying to equate this.
A million people have tweeted it at me, and I just read the 2 sentences.
They never,
like
they said they didn't make adjustments. They would just, okay. So what was the one thing that you could hang your hat on this year for the Steelers?
Defensively?
Yes. They made halftime adjustments.
Oh, okay. I mean,
maybe better than anybody else in the league.
Their points against are a lot different. Second half versus first.
Right.
And much better. Much better.
Much better. The offense made adjustments from the first half to the second half. And so the people who are grasping onto this comment from Julian Edelman, that when he's talking about 2018 or 2017.
So he's talking about like LeBeau defenses, right?
Yeah. He hasn't played the Steelers since 2020.
Yeah. I'm saying, is he grinding the tape and watching all their blitz packages and stuff like that? No. I assume not.
No. But people want to, again, it goes back to everybody's unhappy. And I get it.
I know.
I get it. We have to deal with it on a daily basis on everything that we tweet out or anything in the comments section on our YouTube page. Everything's, well, it doesn't matter as long as it
doesn't matter.
None of this matters.
That's my favorite. Yeah.
Just doesn't matter.
As long as Tomlin's a coach, doesn't matter. They'll never win a thing. Burn the place down. Shouldn't just cancel next season.
Yeah.
It's getting old, to be honest with you. I mean, the bitterness is strong. Like, no matter, I can be better about reading comments, don't get me wrong, but 50% of them, it doesn't matter what the content I produce in this forum or others. It's always,
they don't even read the content
because a lot of it has nothing to do with it. Like, I did a podcast. Should the Steelers pursue Cooper Kupp? What's the difference? Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
why bother?
They'd only throw him the ball 4 times a game. He'd only get 4 targets per game, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
that's a comment that I got.
Just give up. Yeah, I mean, so should every team that aren't playing this weekend just give up?
Apparently so.
Right.
Apparently so.
Yeah. I mean, what if you were the Titans or the Browns or one of these really bad teams?
Apparently, you should just fold the franchise up. You shouldn't even bother.
Don't even bother. No, that is a lot of the feeling, though. I mean, as long as they keep this system, nothing matters. I'm like,
Julian Edelman's talking about things that were done 3 defensive coordinators ago.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's not looking at the adjustments now or grinding the Steeler tape, I'm sure.
No,
right.
I mean,
that's why I brushed it off. I read the 2 sentences, and 900 people have sent it to me. Matt, you need to address this. I'm like, he doesn't play. I don't know what kind of research he's doing. Is he studying the Steelers? I assume not.
I highly doubt it.
Right.
And he's talking with Matt Patricia, who's not studying this. He's not even in football right now.
Isn't he? Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here, people?
Yeah. And it's probably 2 sentences that fell out of Edelman's mouth that he didn't think twice about, and now a million people are running with it.
Yeah, nobody talks about how he also said they coach it up well. Yeah, they're really well coached. Nobody mentions that part of his comments, but they really want to grasp onto they don't make any changes, which may or may not have been the case 7 years ago. I don't know.
Right. I mean, I'm not going to go back and double check. Yeah. That's for sure.
I mean, he's talking about having linebackers covering him in the slot. That's something that hasn't happened.
No, we've seen very
little,
little of that.
If anything, they've people.
There was a game Keenan Allen had a bunch of catches against linebackers in
slot. 2016 against Robert Spillane.
Yeah, exactly. This was a long time ago, right?
It's the thing that drives me when people try to equate everything we talked about, the life in football is so short. What happened 4 years ago has nothing to do with what happened this year.
Right. Cam Hayward was on that defense, and that's about
it.
That's about the only common thread. And the same head coach. Granted, it's the same head coach, but
different coordinators.
Different schemes. So much single high now since Minka. That wasn't a fixture before. I mean, they've changed how they play that way. They used to be a heavy blitz team. They're not a heavy blitz team anymore. Unfortunately, I don't know enough about the other sports, but I think football is a more complex game than others. There's 22 human beings on the field. You actually derive a play. It's not like, if this rebound goes here, we ad-lib it. And most people, and I could be better about this, just don't know the X's and O's. So you see one thing and you assume that person does know the X's and O's, and you think it's gospel. It's a hard one to fact check if you're just Joe Average accountant or whatever. Right. Do you know the intricacies of Dick LeBeau's zone blitz scheme? Of course you don't. I don't. Right.
It's why people fall back on the Pro Football Focus grade.
Right.
Well, they don't know
That's
either.
That's a shortcut too.
They don't know
Which
either.
Which is a beautiful business for them.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
Everybody clicks on it.
There's no fact check on that. Everybody just takes that as gospel.
Right. And I have my umbrage with that too. I think it's a wonderful tool. It's a wonderful website. I go there every day too.
It can be part of the equation.
It can be part of the equation. Yeah, I get some things from there, but a lot of stuff I just totally ignore.
Yeah. I mean, that's what he specifically said. We still have linebackers covering the slot. They don't do that anymore.
Well, every defense does it some.
At times.
Because offensive coordinators get paid too, and they're smart.
Right.
And they scheme you up, and they learn your rules, and they try to get mismatches. That's what the whole game's about. It's just like basketball or whatever. If I can have Spud Webb guarding Shaq, I'm going to throw it into Shaq.
Right.
If I can somehow, a pick and roll is devised for that reason or whatever. But it's way less frequent now. You're not seeing Vince Williams on Edelman or Welker hardly at all anymore.
No. But any little criticism that comes out about the Steelers is automatically, it's gospel.
Oh, yeah. Right now it is, right.
Yeah, and so therefore what Julian Edelman talks about, happening 8 years ago is suddenly, well, that's the gospel. It's got to be exactly what's happening now.
One of my favorites, and this needs corrected, but I put out on Twitter yesterday, the day before, as I was digging into all these defensive stats, I'm like, the Steelers allowed the second most catches to tight ends. 108 or something like that. 55 million tweets later. Tomlin's never covered the tight end his whole life. Remember what Gronk used to do to him? I couldn't help myself. I'm like, Gronk's the best tight end that's ever lived. If this was the 60s and you're like, oh, Jim Brown always eats him up.
Remember what Ditka did against him?
Right. Or, boy, that Jerry Rice guy, he used to have his way with the Rams and Seahawks. I'm like, yeah, he's the best ever. And they were great at scheming him up. Gronk did damage to the Steelers. Was not the only team he did damage to.
Yeah, look at what he did against the Bills, for example.
Right.
He tore them up.
Everybody, right.
But, I get it. People are angry. People are frustrated. They want things changed. But every time we write about something that could potentially be changed and people come immediately, half the responses are, well, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Then why are we doing any of this? Why are people listening to this? We're giving you options here of things that you can do specifically to help make this a better roster in 2025, to help you better compete. And yet half the people out there, well, none of this matters.
And there are a lot of the other kind, too. Courteous fans.
Absolutely.
Hey, I don't think this is right. I agree with you. That's a great observation. I would suggest changing that, too.
Right.
But the things that make me crazy are it doesn't matter. Then what are we bothering for?
Right.
Do you think they're just not going to go to work anymore? Or they
should just not have a draft.
They should just hand their draft picks back to the league. It doesn't matter.
I get it. I understand some of that. If the Chiefs win again this year,
it's an uphill climb beating these guys.
They've now won 3 in a row. It's never been done before.
I mean, frankly, if they don't win,
should the other 31 teams then be saying, well, it doesn't matter what we do because the Chiefs are just going to win the Super Bowl again in 2025?
Right. Well, if you have no competitive genes whatsoever or bones in your body, then just lay down and let it happen again,
Yeah. No, you try to change it.
It's competitiveness.
You try to change it. You try to get better. You try to adjust, and you make adjustments, and you don't do things that you did in 2018. You don't do things that you did in 2015. You don't do things that you did in 2020. The Steelers don't do things the way that they did 20 years ago. They don't do things the way that they did 10 years ago. They don't do things the way that they did 5 years ago.
And next year they'll do things that they didn't do this year.
Right.
I mean, it's an ever-evolving game.
This
sport,
idea that they don't,
league.
they just keep, doing the same thing over and over again is simply not true.
Yeah, I have a problem with that too. I think that's just a shortcut to thinking. It's just, you have the same coach, he never changes. They've had 3 coaches in my lifetime, so they don't. Would you be happier if they fired someone every 10 minutes? And just bring in an incompetent coach?
So.
Right.
I think some of it stems from that's a hockey mentality.
Yeah, coaches aren't for long in that.
Coaches aren't for long in that. Well, because you can just make a change, and because you've only got a limited number of guys on the ice, and we'll just make a change
and they
the
play
coach.
Like a minute and a half at a time.
And he can change his scheme here, and that'll fix everything. You can't do that in the NFL.
You can't change throughout the course of the year like you can in other sports too. Right?
No, you can't. I mean, changing your scheme offensively or defensively every year leads to chaos.
It's the worst.
Yeah, you get worse.
It's the worst. Again, I always cite my year with the Browns. I mean, we were a boring stack 4-3 and under Butch Davis, who came from the Cowboys and the U, and they had great athletes, and they wanted to keep it simple. And frankly, they weren't the smartest group at the U. You can go check their Wonderlic test. So they kept things smart, but they could run and hit.
Yeah.
And
they were also more talented than everybody
That's
else.
what I mean. Yeah. They had better X's and Jimmys and Joes. So they're keeping it simple all day long. And that's what he knew best, and that's what he took to the NFL, and it worked okay. But during my year there, as soon as they hired Romeo, they went to Romeo Cornell, the Belichick, Patriots, 3-4. All of our notes we should just thrown away.
Yeah.
And I think
you're looking
about that
for
all the
completely
time.
different players.
All the work was just garbage.
One of the
Except
comments
for the
I
character stuff.
consistently have gotten over the years, and it happens almost every year.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't they switch your defensive scheme to a 3 or to a 4-3? Like,
how much 3-4 do they really play? Too?
That's the thing. You only play about 20 to 25% of your base to begin with, and quite frankly, there's no difference.
There's very little difference, right? Those guys aren't two-gapping. I mean, the scheme has changed drastically anyway.
Right.
I mean, what is asked of them? They may line in the same place. It may be a 5-man front that they call a 3-4 like they did in the LeBeau days, but it's not two-gapping and holding the point, and you 3 try to eat up these 5 blocks and everybody else runs around, and outside linebackers are dropping into coverage 40% of the time. I mean, you don't see Watt and Highsmith dropping into coverage, 1 out of 3 snaps.
No. I mean, the game has changed.
Yeah,
it just has, and so
almost everyone's a 4-man front most of the time.
Yeah, your 4-man for everybody now is nickel and dime 4-man fronts.
Mm-hmm.
Is the majority
and they're
of your
attacking.
defensive snap.
I mean, there's so many good defensive linemen in the league. I talk about this to no end for years. I still think the biggest advantage is defensive linemen versus O linemen right now, just in terms of talent. And when we go to the combine, you'll be like, people that don't know, there's all shapes and sizes of D linemen, and they're velociraptors and mako sharks and cheetahs and elephants. And
what are you looking for?
Whatever they come out. O linemen, they're just hoping to get by, So why would you ever have them 2-gap in each space?
Right.
Attack. I mean, you're the more physically gifted dude. Everybody kind of does the same thing. Get off the ball and whip the dude in front of you and kill the quarterback.
Yeah, that's the idea.
That's
it doesn't
the idea.
matter whether you do it with a 3-man front with a 3-4. Really, a 3-4 is a 5-man front.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I hate the
what
term outside linebacker. I mean,
they're different. Right? That's why they now call them edge rushers.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 of your best defensive players are your 2 edge rushers.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go to a 4-3, they're just going to be defensive ends.
Oh, yeah. Right. It's just a 4-man front. I mean, which they are whenever Cam and
they go
Benton
nickel
are in the
and
middle.
dime,
Right,
yeah.
exactly. I
So
mean, they're not
no
dropping.
Difference. Yeah.
Hardly at all. Not to mention, just look at the nose tackle differences. Casey Hampton's a tremendous player. Vince Wilfork's a tremendous player. I think Wilfork has a strong Hall of Fame case. He's not a first-round pick this year if he comes out. No. Neither one of them are. And they would play 15 snaps a game and eat space, but that teams aren't looking for those players anymore. They're dinosaurs too.
Yeah, the game has changed. Believe it or not, the Steelers have adjusted with it.
Mm-hmm.
They do things differently now than they did 10 years ago, 5 years ago.
Because the premise I think a lot of these people are complaining about is They never make any changes. The game's passing them by. Say what you want about Tomlin's winning streak. You don't consistently have a winning record without adapting in this league because the league adjusts very, very rapidly. Now, there's some teams that change more drastically, good or bad, mostly bad.
Usually bad,
when you're making 180-degree changes often. But you don't just sit there and do the same thing every year and just because the results are the same. You win 10 games, get in the first round, you lose. Doesn't mean the path was exactly the same or your strategy was exactly the same.
Right.
It can't be.
They've drafted, for example, Dick LeBeau didn't care if his cornerbacks could take the ball away or catch. Hence, you got Ike Taylor,
who was a really good player. Yeah.
Physical cornerback, really good football player. You did everything well except catch the football.
Yeah.
Now the emphasis is on we want defensive backs who take the ball away.
We need splash.
Yeah,
100%.
Because that's the way the game has changed. You need to be able to take the ball away.
I think a lot of our listeners know this, but the Steelers had a wonderful advantage, which I thought was great, when they did run a 3-4 when the rest of the league didn't, because the Hamptons of the world would fall to you. But even better, the Porters and Gildmans,
those guys
would be first-round picks.
They'd be first-round picks now. They're going in the third, the fourth, the fifth round back then.
I mean, a 6'3", 6'4", 250-pound demon off the edge, no one's shying away from that guy now. Yeah. And before they were too small. He's only 240.
They wanted Reggie White on the end.
Yeah. Hold the point because there's only 4 of them that could do it.
Yeah.
They didn't line up as wide. But, I mean, there was salary cap stuff back then too, and every team has to cut corners somewhere. That team cut corners a corner. When you get Woodson, you get Woodson. But, right. I mean, they've had some good ones, but they played a lot of off. They used a lot of mid-round picks on corners, and you got what you got,
Right.
You get there with pressure, and unfortunately, like every defense, it has weaknesses. And the Bradys that could nickel and dime you that were super precise was that defense's weakness, And kind of like the Gronk conversation, Brady did that to a lot of people.
Yeah,
and
the Steelers have adjusted that.
Mm-hmm.
Now they want corners who can cover. They want to play more man.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. They played man the 8th highest amount in the league last year.
Yeah, right in the neighborhood. Yeah.
I mean they're
top of the league in single high, and right.
And nobody plays man 100% of the time.
No one plays it 50% of the time.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're a heavy man team, you played about 40% of the time.
Mm-hmm. And some of those numbers I don't 100% trust either, because zone turns into man.
Matchup zones.
Yeah. You can play zone on half of the side, or one guy you could box and one it to some degree. Coverage stuff's hard for me too. That's one of the metrics I don't really dig into, but I like to see the outliers.
Yeah. But the Steelers do adjust. The numbers this year bear that out.
Mm-hmm.
Their second half numbers, particularly defensively, were much better than they were in the first half of games.
Yeah.
Their offensive numbers were also much better in the second half of games compared to the first half of games.
But of course, we're going to get a comment on YouTube saying,
"Why didn't they make those adjustments going into the game?"
It doesn't matter if you can't adjust during the week. If you come in, and you get out coached within the first half, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Don't even bother playing the game.
I feel like we should just play Bill Murray now and meatballs.
Oh, they're going to say Groundhog Day because it's every comment's Groundhog Day to me.
It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. There we go. He is Matt Williamson. This is The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. We'll be back with more right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And we were talking wide receivers there. And Matt, my position reviews have continued to run on Steelers.com. Actually, we're beyond wide receivers. We're on to linebackers.
We're a little behind. You and I are.
We're in linebackers here, I believe. So let's talk about the Steelers linebacker situation. T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith, Patrick Queen, Landon Roberts, Peyton Wilson, Nick Herbig, Preston Smith, Jeremiah Moon, Mark Robinson, Tyler Matakevich, and Cole Holcomb were the guys that
the notable names,
the notable names there. And I know that, again, the way the run defense finished the season up, you look kind of at the linebackers for that, but
sure,
I think that's as good a group as you'll see in the NFL.
I bet it's the group with or close to it, the least amount of change too. Like Preston Smith will likely be released and they knew that going in. Yeah. Nothing that he did wrong. It's just he's a big contract, obviously. Holcomb could be a release as well because they got a lot of them. Nothing he did wrong. Roberts is a free agent. I think they bring him back, but
I think he wants to come back.
It would add up to me. Maybe Peyton Wilson's participation goes up a little bit going forward. I think he's starting to earn that. But other than that, I think you're going to see a lot of the same, which I'm absolutely fine with. I think you don't have to do much there at all. I would like to bring Roberts back.
Do you add a body there at all in the draft? That's one area we've kind of ignored in our draft stuff.
It would be late.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be late. It's a really deep edge class, and it never hurts to have a fourth one that makes his bones on special teams, and,
You might find that in, rookie free agent.
You might.
Again, it's a deep class. You might be able to find a guy that kind of gets overlooked. Maybe he's a little shorter than what everybody's looking for, something like that.
Is Moon definitely back? I should know that off the top of my head.
Yeah.
He's an exclusive or one of those type of deals, right? And he was a good special teamer. I mean, he's going to compete for a roster spot. Would you consider bringing Preston Smith back after releasing him? I mean, it would probably be a little – him and Mike Williams both I've kind of looked at like maybe late in free agency if he's not getting a lot of bites, bring him to camp on a one-year deal,
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, you can't pay him the $13 million or whatever it is that he's owed. But
he knows that. They know that. Everybody knows
and
that,
the problem then becomes if you do that, I mean, it's great if you have an injury.
Yeah.
To have that. But otherwise, as we saw at certain times last year, like when he would be inactive because they wanted to have Moon up for special teams purposes, people would go crazy. Why is Preston Smith not active today? Because he doesn't play special teams at all.
He doesn't play special teams at all.
At all.
I mean, he doesn't get his jersey dirty if everybody's out there.
Those 15 snaps that he gives you on defense are fine. They're great. But he doesn't do anything else.
Yeah, he doesn't do anything else, right. And that's tough if you're the fourth guy in the rotation. If you're the third guy,
that's
okay,
different.
Well, you played 30 snaps. Great. I mean, he'd have been active every time. If Herbig or Highsmith was out, he would play. They would never consider making him inactive.
Right.
But I think he's a quality player, and he's a little different than the guys they have.
Is, yeah.
And
they even lined him up inside at times last year. Is that interior rush guy. In the nickel and dime package on third and longs. When they knew they weren't going to get a run.
Especially the game Hayward had was really fighting the illness. Too.
Yeah. So he gives you that potential as well. But
for the most part, I'm running back inside and outside linebackers.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's anybody on the move. Maybe if you release Holcomb and he's sitting out there in a month too, hey, you want to sign a 1-year cheap deal because you didn't put any tape out? I mean, I think they like him. Yeah. But I think they kind of went over him too.
Yeah, I mean, you drafted Peyton Wilson to essentially be that guy.
Yeah.
And you also signed Patrick Queen.
Yeah.
Who there was the idea that he had a bad year. I don't necessarily get. I mean, if you look at what the inside linebacker group produced this year as compared to just a couple of years ago, it's night and day.
They were playing with. I mean, since Shazier's injury, this is the best that unit has been. Clearly.
Yeah. And so I want to see what that looks like in year 2 of this.
Me too.
I'm not saying, well, this group didn't do anything. No, they played pretty well, and I think it's only going to get better.
And I'm not making excuses for the guy, but he was very ill for that playoff game too, and looked it. Yeah, I mean, he was sluggish. He probably should not have been out there, but it's his former team in the playoffs. Of course, he's going to play. And
you hear that a lot, like, if this were a playoff game, that guy would be playing.
Right.
Well, it was a playoff game,
should
have. That guy was playing.
And that guy was playing.
Yeah.
And in that game, he was a liability, but so be it. I think he had an up and down first year, but the ups are impressive. And there's, an athlete on that level, his quality goes a long way too,
Yeah, I mean, just think, it was just a couple of years ago that their inside linebackers had like 4 tackles for a loss.
Oh, yeah.
Right. 1 sack and
collectively,
no forced fumbles,
right.
And just the whole
no splash at all, right?
No splash at all.
No sacks, right?
They got splash out of those guys this year,
and I think Wilson's best days are to come. I bet Queen's even better in year 2.
Understands the defense better. He got off to a slow start.
He did, and I thought some people in the organization kind of mentioned, not to me directly, I don't go reporting stuff, but it seemed like he had a lot on his plate early. And was swimming a little bit with new system. I'm the green dot guy, all that. And I think that stuff got better as the year went on, and it'll be fine next year.
Yeah. I just think year 2 in this system, and he's still a young guy. I mean, you've got 2 cornerstone young defensive guys, inside linebackers there that you can be pretty good there for the next few years.
And communication between those guys and some continuity is important as well. One of the reasons I would not love to lose Roberts, because also he's more of a hammer than those guys too.
Yeah.
But all in all, I think you basically just run it back outside and inside linebackers and go from there.
Yeah. Let's move on to running backs here real quick.
Okay.
It's not as many guys to talk about at that position, so we can do this one a little quicker. You got Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, Cordero Patterson, and Aaron Shamplin got some run in there this year as well. Harris and Patterson both unrestricted free agents. Warren is restricted. You see a lot of this. Well, they're going to lose Jalen Warren. They're not going to lose Jalen Warren.
They're going to put a second-round tender on him, and if someone wants him that bad, you get a second-round pick for him, and you draft
in
the
this
back
draft. I'd be more than happy.
Round,
yeah.
Right, and you just get younger. Right.
Yeah.
But I think he's the only one who'll be back. I don't know what Shamplin's situation is, but of the
you
top
can find
three,
those guys.
Right.
Yeah.
There'll be camp guys like him. As much as I think they'll draft a defensive tackle, I think they'll draft a running back even stronger. Like in terms of putting a chip down of one position, I really feel strong that they will draft will be a running back. We do this a lot in the first segment, hour two, maybe even two. I mean, I think there could be two rookies in camp. Maybe one's an undrafted free agent that are on lists, pedigree guys.
Yeah, and it's a great running back draft. It just depends on what their feeling is regarding Warren. Do they view him as a potential starter? Mm-hmm. Because I think that changes where you're looking potentially for that back. Or do you say, okay, we're going to take one in the second round here, and that guy's going to be 1A. Yeah. And Warren's going to stay in the same role.
And Warren becomes an unrestricted after the year too.
There's that.
Right.
Like
preparing for the next time. I'd even consider extending him. I'm a big Warren fan, to be honest with you. And he's another one that started the season slow due to injury. There was some flashes in those last half of the season, though, that reminded people of what he was in previous years. I think he's a very good football player and one of their best offensive weapons right now. Yeah,
I like him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think Najee Harris is a good football player.
I do too.
I think the people who are saying he's a bust or things of that.
No, that's not fair.
4 straight 1,000-yard seasons, you're not a bust.
Right, and doesn't put the football on the ground, super reliable, durable, all those type of things too. Yeah, he's not a bust.
It goes back to the
5 picks in the draft either.
Yeah, it goes back to the 50-year option stuff. They didn't pick up his 50-year option, so they must not like him. Well, I looked it up. 17 players from the Najee Harris draft got their 50-year option picked up, which means 15 didn't.
Yeah.
So about half. And I went back and looked at the numbers from that.
And a lot of it depends what position you play.
Pre-CBA and post-CBA. And
it's brutal, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed. It used to be it was around 20 that got their option picked up. And now it's less than that because you just can't afford to do it at the level.
It's not a great system. That needs to be reevaluated next year.
Well, I mean, I understand why the union wants it, but essentially what's happening now is these guys are all getting every rookie's a 4-year deal.
Yeah.
And then that 5th-year option
is for the special guys.
It's for the guys who are, we can't afford to lose that guy.
The other thing, too, about the 5th-year option with Najee is on the day that you had to pick it up, he could blow out his knee in week 1, and then you're on the hook. And at
fully
that position,
guaranteed.
I know he's durable as could be, but no one takes more punishment than running backs.
Yeah.
That's a hard position to guarantee it unless you're Saquon.
That's why, if you take one in the first round, that's fine. If you don't, if you get one in the second round, that's even better.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot in this draft. I mean, we can't emphasize that enough. I wonder, what will Najee get on the open market? It's a bad year to be a free agent running back. You know, I mean, I think some people in the league will be like, I want the next Barkley, I want the next Henry, and I'm not going to tell you he's that guy. But
I could see a team like the Raiders, though, looking at this and
that's a good one.
And going, hey,
we got money.
Pete Carroll's in there. I like a back who's going to pound between the tackles.
Yeah.
If we sign this guy, we've got money. That takes something off of our plate.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we don't take one later, but now we don't have to take one in the third round because we don't have one right now.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a starter.
Maybe teams will look at the Lions and say he's our Montgomery.
Yeah.
And he's not the most dynamic back in the backfield.
And maybe that's a better role for him.
I think it's a great role for him.
Yeah.
And him and Warren had some of that.
They kind of did, even
but not
particularly more last year.
Yeah. Right.
When Warren was
Gibbs
healthy the entire
special
season.
Electric guy.
Yeah, there were times this year where Harris had to carry the entire load for the most part. because Warren was hurt.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
He's also not super young either. I mean, just in terms of
They're
his
actually the
earning
same
power.
age.
No, I just mean, to be hitting free agency. For
Yeah,
the
but
first
Harris
time.
and Warren are the same exact age.
Yeah.
People don't understand. They came out of high school the same year. Harris just got here.
Everything
a
that happened in
earlier.
between really doesn't matter.
No, right.
It's more, yeah.
Anyways, let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I'm Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. That's going to do it for hour number 1 of The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. I got a little something to throw at Matt here in hour number 2. Kicking it off here with our little mock draft. We'll do that when we get back right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And we're going to have a little mock draft madness here. I haven't even told Matt what we're doing here.
Okay.
But I've already set up one thing here. I've already done this just to speed things along here. So we have traded pick 85 and pick 225 to the Jacksonville Jaguars for wide receiver Christian Kirk and pick 142.
Okay. I'm cool with that. I don't think that's crazy.
Now, we are now up at pick 21. And our boy Walter Nolan is there.
Okay. Certainly interested.
But I'm going to get a little even more crazy here, Matt, because we have picks 21, 53, and then we don't have another pick until 121.
Yeah, I don't love that. Right.
142, 163, 249. I
actually think we could have got Kirk cheaper, by the way, but we'll let it slide.
That's what they accepted on here.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I forgot you could do players on there.
Yeah,
okay.
That's what they accepted here on. I didn't force the trade or anything. That's what they.
Okay.
That's what they valued it at. We have 4 trade offers, but Walter Nolan is there. The Vikings are on the phone. They don't have a pick in that area that I want to get a pick.
They don't have a day 2 pick. This year. Right.
The Ravens are on the phone. Nah. The Detroit Lions are on the phone.
I don't mind going back a reasonable amount.
Yeah.
If we can get some day 2 stuff.
So the Lions are on the phone with pick 28. Let's do some business with the Lions here.
I'm very cool with that.
Okay, so we're going to get pick 21 for we're going to give up here. We're going to get 28. Will they give us 60?
I bet we have to sweeten it.
There's a 32% chance of that, so we are going to have to sweeten it a little bit. If I go to 249, no. So here's the other thing I want to look at, Matt. Let's say we also, since we got Christian Kirk, we're going to say we're going to move on from George Pickens.
Okay.
So now we're going to trade George Pickens away.
Did we just make a deal with the Lions or not?
We did not.
Okay.
So I'm going to get Pickens here, and I got some teams I know that might be interested in George Pickens, especially if they missed out on a wide receiver early.
They'll be suitors. So we're doing this before we make our first round pick.
Yes.
Okay. That's fine.
Now, we wouldn't have this amount of time,
Yeah,
but you would already have laid the groundwork for some of these
Yeah.
during the draft.
And they may have traded them before the draft.
So I'm going to go talk to the who do I want to talk to here? Let's talk to who do I've made this deal a couple of times.
Oh, have you? Okay.
I'm going to go talk to the Las Vegas Raiders here.
That would make sense.
Now, we're also going to have to sweeten that package because they're 37. They're not going to make that deal.
They're not going to do 37 straight for
Straight
them?
up. No.
I was thinking if they were to move them, they'd get like a generic second, a mid-second, and a 5th, something like that.
Now, the Patriots at pick 38 might do that. Well, we're getting closer here. I know it.
I
Okay.
assume this takes into account if they drafted a receiver in the first round, then they're not super interested.
Yeah. Okay. The Indianapolis Colts are interested.
Okay.
I want a little sweetener from them or something.
Yeah, I'd like to get more than their second. Second and a 5th, I think, is about the going rate. So we're going to swap Kirk for Pickens, basically, and move around the draft board a lot.
Yeah. That's kind of what we're doing here. So that's
which I think some of this is quite possible, by the way. I mean, I
So
think there's going to be a lot of wide receiver trades.
my current offer here now is picks 142, 249, and Pickens for 45 and 152.
Fair enough. I mean, we're not going to sit here with dead air for 5 minutes negotiating with them. So I mean, if it's in the neighborhood, sure.
So now we have picks 21, 45, 53, 121, 152, 163.
Okay.
But
now, if we want to go back to talking to the Lions,
we also have Christian Kirk.
And we don't have Pickens.
But we don't have Pickens.
Right. So we downgraded at receiver.
Yes.
It is a bigger need than it was 5 minutes ago.
Correct. Which is why it was important for us to get that higher second-round pick as opposed to
and really, the only receivers, and all of a sudden now, I want outside receivers.
Yeah.
Kirk's best in the slot. Austin, Wilson. We need size. We need outside the numbers. We need, I don't know who our quarterback is, but if it's Wilson, I definitely want some deep threats. Go up and get it, guys.
Okay, so now I'm going to get back on the phone with the Lions at pick 28. Walter Nolan is tempting.
He's very tempting.
But we may be able to address that later in the draft.
I'd like to get more third round, fourth round neighborhood, too, because we got a little bit of a gap here, too, with our picks.
Let me see if this gets it done. So I'm offering pick 21 and 163 for 28 and 60.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to get that 60.
They accepted it.
Okay, and that's about to go in.
There we go. So
up 7
now
spots in the first round.
We're going to resume the draft here, but now we've got picks 28, 45, 53, 60, 121, and 152.
Okay, great.
But we have
not drafted anybody,
but we have not drafted anybody. The only guy that we've added is Christian Kirk at this point.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, we swapped receivers.
Yeah. All right, so we're up here at 28. Top players available. Matthew Golden is still there.
You have to be interested. I wish he was 6'3", but
Nick Scourton, Josh Connerly, Jahdae Barron is there.
Okay, definitely interested.
Colston Loveland.
We didn't mention. We're going to say that they have a quarterback.
Yeah,
and I'm sure they've signed somebody else.
Something will have happen there. Demetrius Knight, Trey Amos, Siobhan Ravel, Donovan Ezereku, Alec Yemenor.
Okay,
that would be your big outside the number receiver.
Yeah, I just think the corners are better than him.
T.J. Sanders there. Jack Beck is there. Jack Betch, I should say.
Okay. I don't look at Illuminor or Betch as a first-round pick. I know it's a late first.
We do have 3 more trade offers on the board. Be the Cowboys at 44. We don't want to move down that far. So we want to take a player here. And then
I wouldn't mind taking 2 day 2 receivers the way this is, or 2 second through fourth round receivers. What's the nose situation? Because there were definitely corners I liked.
Yeah. I mean,
D-tackle situation.
To me, I think the best corner, T.J. Sanders is there.
I don't think he's a Steeler fit, though.
Yeah. Omar Norman Lott, Derek Harmon, Darius Alexander.
It got hit pretty hard.
I think you take Barron.
Yeah, it's my favorite of the players in a nutshell, yeah.
I think that's good value moving back, picking up those extra picks.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get 1 or 2 more. We get 4 of the top 60 picks.
Yeah. Okay. I'm fine with that.
Barron
I think he's
is
the best
pick.
player on the board.
Yeah, Barron is the pick. All right, so now we are up again here at 45. Well, receivers once again got picked over there. JT Tuamaloa is the top guy available. Tyler Booker, Cam Scatabo, Omar Norman Lott, Xavier Restrepo.
Do you want to do something crazy?
What's that?
See if Seattle wants to trade us DK Metcalf?
That would be really crazy.
It's been a crazy day.
I mean, I can ask.
Does that work on? I've never done player trades on whatever site.
I can ask here. Where's Seattle at? Seattle.
They have no cap space, and Smith-Njigba went past him on the depth chart.
Apparently, they have no second-round pick either.
They might want one.
Oh wait, there's picks at 50. There we go. So we would be offering pick 45.
And maybe get some juice back.
Well, yeah, but I just want to see what that looks like for DK Metcalf. They will 100% accept that.
I would think they would. We have money. I mean, what we need back in addition to DK for 45.
Well, they won't give us pick 82 unless we sweeten the pot. The trade will absolutely not be accepted. So
sweeten it. Even a future pick.
Yeah, we could go that route. Well, we're giving up 45. Next year's fourth isn't going to get it done.
Okay.
Next year's third would absolutely get it done, but they got to give us something. They got to give me a fourth back then.
Yeah, top 3 rounds I'd prefer not to have on the table for next year, but we're earth-shattering receiver moves here.
So if let's say we go next year's fourth, they're not going to do it. It has to be next year's third.
And what's the deal again?
And they would give us their fourth. So it would be 45 and DK Metcalf, or I'm sorry, 45 and next year's third for 82, next year's fourth for them and DK Metcalf.
Okay, we're only moving down around in next year.
Yeah.
I'm in. I don't like the receivers on the board, and
There
we
we
got to
go.
add another receiver, and that's the mold we need.
There we go. We just added Christian. Our receivers now are Christian Kirk, DK Metcalf.
Yeah. Now Austin and Wilson are 3 and 4.
And we still have our pick at 45.
Right, and we're still okay.
We're still at
draft-wise.
45 and 50.
We gave up a little capital next year, but we'll find a way to make that work.
Yeah. Or something. Sorry, we're at 53, 60, 82, 121. So we are now up here at pick 53.
Do we agree that we're done at corner and receiver?
Yes, we don't need to.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the best guys available here: Tyler Booker, Xavier Restrepo, Dylan Sampson, Caleb Johnson, Savion Williams, Jaden Higgins, Donovan Jackson, Derek Harmon, Cameron Williams, Jared Ivesy, Ozzie Trapillo, Darius Alexander.
Is Farmer there? And actually, I'm so confused too. How long do we wait to our next pick?
We have picks at 60, 82, 121, 152.
Okay.
We don't need to take in those yet.
No, but I don't want to get too far away from D-line.
I'd take Alexander there.
I didn't even hear you say him. I was going to say Johnson, but when you said, I'd rather have Alexander than Johnson.
Yeah, I take Darius Alexander.
Yeah, okay. Doesn't have to
There
be
we go.
nose, but I want to take a D. I would love to take
Yeah.
a D lineman, and he's absolutely fine with me. That's
Okay.
great.
Now we're back up at
now
60.
I feel a lot better about
Yeah.
it. Okay.
We're back up at 60. Dylan Sampson, Jaden Higgins, Cameron Williams, Jared Ivey, Ozzie Trapillo, Chris Paul Jr., Wyatt Millum, Sebastian Castro, Alfred Collins, Travion Henderson, Quinshawn Junkins, Dylan Gabriel, Jonas Savania.
Your Ohio State backs are interesting, although I don't think Henderson's a great fit. I think he's a really good player.
Would you take Judkins here?
This is the third round?
This is the end of the second.
End of the second.
We've
been crazy.
We've filled
with
the wide
trades.
receiver need.
Right.
We've added a cornerback.
And we got a D lineman.
And we got a D lineman. Would you take a bonus prize here of one of the offensive linemen?
It's a little early for a quarterback, but
A little early for that.
yeah.
I mean, there's some good offensive linemen there.
Mm-hmm. Who's the best player on the board regardless of position?
Well, according to their rankings, Dylan Sampson.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I need to do more work on
Then
him.
Jaden Higgins and Cameron Williams, a tackle out of Texas.
Any trade offers?
We get 4 trade offers.
I hate going crazy trade, but we've already been pretty crazy in this draft. Anyway.
Trapillo is there.
Trapillo's going to go pretty high.
Yeah.
I think Judkins fills the biggest need. I just feel like we could get him later.
I don't know if we will get. We don't pick again until 82.
I know. That's why I would love to trade down here. But again, we're getting a little crazy.
A little crazy here. The Browns are the next pick, the team with the next pick that are calling, and then it's the Ravens at 91. Well, we're not making
And that
trades with
doesn't
those
help us,
teams.
okay.
So we're picking here. Sticking and picking. What do you want to do?
Judkins, I guess.
Okay.
Just because we've such a long wait.
Quinshawn Judkins. We'll see if that worked out. We'll see what running backs are still available, or maybe they got picked over just to take a look at it. Well, Devin Neal was still there, but
We didn't know.
yeah. All right, so we are up now at 82. Latham Ransom, Josiah Stewart, the edge rusher out of Michigan, Isaiah Bond, the wide receiver from Texas, Charles Grant, the offensive tackle from William &
He's
Mary.
a nice developmental
Yeah.
project. That's a bonus prize.
Yeah. Take him?
He's my favorite name you mentioned.
Yeah, Mason Taylor still there, Tez Johnson, Devin Neal, Trey Harris,
I'm a
Harold
big
Fannin.
Mason Taylor fan too. A lot of these tight ends I really like.
Yeah. I think you take the tackle.
Developmental guy, William & Mary, that lines up, Do
There
it.
we go.
Okay.
Remember, we got 2 wide receivers out of this draft as well
Yeah, 2 NFL dudes that are
that we know can play.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're up here now at 121. Top players available: Will Howard, Riley Leonard, Barrett Carter, Jackson Dart,
Yeah.
Jacob Parrish, Damian Martinez, Torrey Horton, I should say. I keep saying Holton. Antoine Powell-Ryland, the edge rusher out of Virginia Tech. Chase Lunt, the tackle out of Connecticut. Brashard Smith. Riley Mills. Quinn Ewers. Olufemi Adelajido. These names. Mitchell Evans. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, the halfback out of Arizona. I'm just looking here to see if my guy is available, or did he go? Let me take a look at the defensive tackles, because this is about the area where we need to start looking for a nose.
Another nose would be nice. That's what I was thinking, too. Nose and quarterback are kind of...
Nose and quarterback are...
Probably priorities, I'd
would
say.
you take Howard here and just be thankful that...
Yes and no, because my favorite ones are Louisville and Indiana, to be honest with you. And I know you can get them, and I know I can rig the system and get them later, but Howard's fine. You know what I mean? Is there a nose there of consequence?
The best one that I see here who's a true nose, Farmer Went.
I like West from Indiana.
Yeah, West is there. Shamar Turner from Texas A&M is there. Tim Smith from Alabama is there.
Tim Smith's a man.
Yeah. C.J. West is there.
I might go with one of the nose, West or Smith.
Which one do you like better?
Smith's just fresher on my mind from the Senior Bowl. He's a big physical dude.
Yeah. No pass rush skills, though.
No, not really. I'm not asking him to play a lot of downs.
Yeah. West, West
I like West a lot.
Yeah, West played more on the nose last year than
I don't know his exact height
he
and
had.
everything, but
he's a big dude.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing.
But I'm fine with Howard or a quarterback.
Here's the thing with Smith. He had 5 snaps in the A-gap last year.
Really?
Yeah.
That surprises me.
Yeah. I mean, he spent most of his time in the B-gap.
Mm-hmm. You want to go Howard?
I want to go West.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Let's take West.
I thought you were leaning away from noses.
No.
Okay.
No. We'll see what's available here at the court. We're now up at 152, our final draft pick.
Which is kind of fun.
Which
What quarterbacks are out there?
All right, at the quarterback position, you're looking at Quinn Ewers, Curtis Rourke, Max Brosmer, Tyler Shuff.
Shuck's my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you take Shuck here.
Mm-hmm.
Boom.
This is going to sound crazy, but by the time draft time rolls around, we might be talking about him as like, got to use a third-round pick on him.
Yeah.
I really like some of the stuff.
Jim Nagy put out a tweet yesterday.
I saw it thrown from different arm angles.
I tweeted it out. And I'm like,
he's not going to be a 6th-round guy. I have no doubt.
The only thing about him are the medicals and the age.
Yeah, I don't care one bit about the age.
Yeah,
I mean the medicals.
If the medical's clear, then you're good.
It's
all right.
4 degrees.
That would have taken you 25 years to get 4 degrees.
I'd still be in school. You're right.
All right, so the draft is over. We got Jahdae Barron at pick 28.
That really firms up your secondary because his versatility.
Yeah. We got Darius Alexander at pick 53. We got Quinshawn Judkins at pick 60. We got Charles Grant, the offensive tackle out of William & Mary, at pick 82. C.J. West at pick 121. Tyler Shuff at pick 152. We also picked up,
So real quick, that draft, I think we would take that veteran wide receiver moves aside. Like if you just told me the Steelers took Barron at 21, Judkins in the 2nd round, blah, 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 blah. Like Alexander in the 2nd round. Like if you ended up with that without making any trades, that's acceptable draft class.
Yeah.
Just the rookies incoming. And I love George Pickens, but I'd rather have Metcalf and Kirk than Pickens.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's kind of what we did. And we lost a little future. We went back around.
We flipped around, yeah.
Right.
But we got 2 quality NFL right now, 1,000-yard guys, and they're like,
and we got to pay them. I mean, we lost some salary cap space too. I mean, when you do the whole tail of the tape, but we won that day.
Yeah.
I mean, especially I'm operating as if Wilson's the quarterback too, because of the Metcalf connection, and I also think he's a better groomer of these other the quarterback we drafted.
Yeah, we got a running back.
Mm-hmm.
We got a cornerback who's
his first round
going to be very helpful,
yeah.
even if he's just your slot the first year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Alexander learning from Cam is great.
Yeah.
And we threw a nose in the mix too. We attacked the D-line. And
we added another offensive lineman.
That's the bonus prize.
Yeah.
I mean, a tackle. I mean, not a maybe he's a swing interior guy. I mean, he's a tackle.
Yeah. So
I like the whole transaction.
Yeah,
good move.
It was just an interesting way to look at it because you can do the player for player trades.
I do think there's a lot of receivers, maybe including Pickens, that will be traded this year, or cut, or we're talking about Kupp, and Kirk's in a similar situation too, where they have big cap hits.
Yeah,
they could be on the open market.
I mean, that's the thing. You talk about paying the wide receivers. You're going to pay the wide receivers now, and if you go sign one, you're going to have to pay a wide receiver now.
Mm-hmm. Right.
As opposed, and you're going to pay Pickens at some point. Presumably, if you keep him.
Right. That's what you're deciding now. Yeah. You're paying this guy, you're trading him.
So the contracts have already been set for these two guys. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that they won't want new deals.
Pay the bonus.
Right, but you're not paying the bonus. You might say, hey, that's something we'll talk about after the season.
And this is nerdy, but maybe in the Jacksonville deal they picked up half his contract or something too. Metcalf wouldn't be that case. But yeah, you have cap space.
You have the cap space to do it. Mm-hmm. Be bold.
Yeah,
this was bold.
And where else would they have spent their money? Let's say Wilson's getting a 2-year, $30 million deal or whatever. You still have a lot of cap space in this situation too. Maybe you added another corner. Bring back Landon Roberts. I mean, I'm lowballing. You could have done way more than that.
Yeah. So
interesting.
It's a bold way to do it.
It is.
It's a bold approach, and it's
easier to pull off sitting here in the studio on a laptop than Omar saying, "Well, as soon as I trade Pickens, I better have this guy." And that's the beauty of grabbing.
Some of those deals might be done before, again, before I even started the draft, I had already made the deal for Kirk.
And Pickens could be gone before the draft even started too.
Right.
That's kind of one of the things we talked about yesterday. If you get Kupp right now, the second move's a little easier, no matter what it is. Just because you have one more thing, you have a bird in the hand.
Yeah. And again, I'm not saying they need to do this stuff. But it's just a different way to look at it.
Right. There's a lot of ways to attack this.
Yeah. I mean, my preference would be to keep George Pickens and,
throw him the ball a lot.
He gets throw him the ball a lot, and he gets on board with everything. And I
mean, I wouldn't argue with Pickens, Kupp, Austin, Wilson, and that cost you nothing.
Right.
There's no shuffling or anything.
So, anyways, let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. Welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and this is The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network, and you can hear The Drive every day from 4 to 6 p.m. right here on these very airwaves. You can also download the Steelers mobile app and get it there, or you can watch our YouTube channel show, or you can listen to it there, and you can also comment on the YouTube channel. Matt, one of the things that being active trading for veteran players in the draft, with draft picks does, you mentioned, you're going to use up some of your cap.
Right, but that's what you have the most of.
That's what you have.
Yeah.
It also, it's one of the reasons I don't mind moving back on from a third-round pick to a fourth-round pick as part of that deal.
We just did, yeah. For next year, people.
For next year. Because if you do it that way, you're going to get compensatory picks.
Right. If your big acquisitions are, in this case, Kirk, Metcalf, maybe a corner or something else. It's not like you're not going to sign anyone from outside the organization.
Well, we drafted Jahdae Barron.
Right.
Okay,
But you have signed somebody before the draft, probably. At some position. I mean, your only free agent acquisition probably would not be Russell Wilson. Right. You had done something. But you mentioned this off the air. You're probably going to lose Daniels. You're probably going to lose Moore. Those guys are going to get paid a lot of money.
You're going to lose Najee.
You're going to lose one. You're going to lose a quarterback. You're going to lose Najee. And to your point, to steal your thunder here, you're going to get comp picks then, and which are now tradable.
Right.
It's not like maybe you don't get a third. They don't hand those out easily, but you might get a fourth-round comp pick, and basically just make up for it,
Right. You may get a couple of picks there. Maybe it's a 4 and a 6 that you're then able to move back into the third round to get somebody that you've targeted.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's a nice way of putting it. That's I keep throwing this example. If Devontae Adams gets cut and you're going to sign Adams or Godwin, Adams gets a nod because you might end up getting a pick because of that, because Godwin's a free agent.
Right.
It's a difference. And the guys we picked up to get better at receiver help our comp game.
Yeah, it's the whole reason the Ravens re-signed Deontay Johnson again after he was cut by Houston. Well, we'll just sign him back in case,
They didn't even let him in the building, I don't think.
Probably not.
Right.
But well, now if somebody signs him in the offseason to a decent deal, we might get a comp pick back. Well,
it might be enough. It might be.
I doubt it.
Probably. I mean, their logic is foolproof. It's not going to hurt them.
No.
Right.
They just had to pay him for a week.
They just had to pay him for a week, which maybe instead of a 6th-round comp pick, they get a 5th.
Yeah.
Maybe. Who knows? But it can't hurt them.
No.
Except for one check they write,
Yeah. But I don't think they're going to get anything out of that. Because
I don't think he's going to sign a big deal.
I don't think so either.
Right.
They're going to lose. They're going to lose some other guys too that may.
True.
Some of their offensive linemen may get better deals. So that'll factor into the equation a little bit. But
they're good with the comp game, though.
It would mean they would sign nobody in free agency, which I don't know if they can afford to do.
I would think they lose more than they gain.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. In fact, if you look at off-season needs here for the other teams in the division, I'm looking here on the 33rd team, and Ian Valentino put some of those together here.
No, did he?
Looking at the Ravens, their needs right now, edge rusher, which seems to be every year.
Yeah, I think that's safe. Oweh's kind of taking a step, but there's not a difference maker in the group.
Defensive tackle.
Yeah, Jones and Matabuke are pretty solid. Pierce is getting up in age.
Pierce is up in age,
right?
and they like to run a rotation out there, yeah. Guard.
Guard's going to be a problem.
Huge problem.
Yeah, that's going to be a big problem.
They're going to lose Macari. And
I think that's almost guaranteed.
They showed, Voorhees showed this year, and he's allowed to get better, but he wasn't the answer.
No.
He couldn't beat out Falele.
Maybe they'll even go high in the draft guard.
Yeah. And then wide receiver still.
And Stanley's the other one.
And they're probably going to lose Stanley. They can't afford him.
I don't know that I don't know if he's good enough to franchise. He does have an extensive injury history.
And he's over 30.
Than everyone.
Yeah.
He gets on the open market, New England will give him money. Someone that just doesn't have any linemen.
I think Brandon Stevens is a free agent for them as well.
Yeah. I've seen them mock the corner with some regularity, and I know they drafted one in the first round with this in mind. But Stevens didn't have a very good year for him.
No,
I
he
don't
didn't.
think he'll be back.
But then you're shorting yourself there again because now it's Humphrey and Wiggins. And
yeah. They'll sign somebody at some position here. They're not going to just lose. Wonder if they could keep Macari or Stanley. It would still have open a hole.
Yeah. Macari would be cheaper.
And he's versatile.
Yeah. He's not that much younger than Stanley.
No, he's been right.
He's been around for a while.
And you're probably still starting Falele then.
Ugh.
Right. But where do you get a left tackle if you let Stanley go? They don't have anything resembling.
They don't grow those on trees.
No, right.
Yeah.
I don't want Macari there.
They could move Rosengarten over and
Macari's played right. Falele's played right. They are going to draft players.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's not going to be as good, I don't believe.
I don't think.
Yeah.
I'd consider drafting a Henry replacement at some point, too, in a running back deep draft. 4th round. I'm not saying it'd be Derrick Henry and go to the Hall of Fame, but, what if Henry slows down?
He's going to be 32 next year.
Right, yeah.
The Bengals. Guard, edge rusher, safety, tight end.
I go on and on and on with them.
I could come up with every position on defense.
Yeah. I don't think Henderson's going to be back. I think he's going to get traded.
Yeah, because he's going into the last year of his deal, and he sat out last year. I think he's not
going
to
to this for a long time.
Yeah.
They're going to give Chase money. They might bring back Higgins. But if not, receiver's a huge need.
Right. They
don't really have a tight end to note. The O-line needs some work. I think their roster is in trouble.
A little bit.
Really, I think they have not managed it very well. They haven't drafted well.
Yeah, they've missed on a lot of the defensive guys they've drafted in the last few years have not hit.
Mm-hmm. They could go tight end in the first round. They could go safety. They could go everywhere.
Edge rusher, defensive tackle, anywhere across the board.
Burrow is going to have to raise all ships, which he's capable of. But
what point does he get tired of that?
I was thinking the same thing. I've actually said that before, that even before this Myles Garrett stuff came out, are Burrow and Chase going to look at this thing and be like, dude, we're not – it's us two and
It's what happened to Carson
else.
Palmer there.
Right.
Palmer's like, look, we're spinning our wheels here. Yeah, you're paying me money, but you're not paying anybody else, and we're not going to win.
Even just Chase and Burrow. They win the national championship at LSU, come in and have early success and, win playoff games. And now all of a sudden it's like just us two here.
Yeah.
I mean, it could get to that point in a year or so. Not this offseason.
Well, that's why he's got the Batman car.
Yeah,
they can be Batman and Robin. I don't know which one's which, but they can be Batman and Robin.
But that could go south for sure. I've thought that for a while.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a great, strong organization, in terms of roster building.
Speaking of not great organizations in terms of roster building, the Cleveland Browns.
Before you do that, there's like 5 guys of starting defenders that are going to get cut for the Bengals. They are going to have a lot of cap space. So there could be changes, but I don't know. Browns are a disaster.
For the Browns, quarterback, offensive tackle, edge rusher, running back.
I think there's going to be more defections.
Yeah,
if Garrett gets traded.
I don't see that happening quickly.
I don't think it'll happen quickly.
Because the money is just too great. I mean, they lose money against the cap
I know.
to trade him before the draft.
My Browns prediction is he will get traded, and their cap will be the worst in the history of the league for this year and into other years. And I think just knowing that organization, they're going to go tank mode to the nth degree and try to win 0 games next year. And might accomplish it.
They might accomplish it.
They might accomplish
Yeah.
it. And just be in cap hell this year to know, like we've never seen before, $35 million dead money on Garrett, tons on Watson. Maybe you throw Winston out there or something like that. But like Batonio and Ward and, hey, you want them? Come get them. Just give us every draft pick we can get.
I saw something today that somebody broke it down. I think it was on Over the Cap, that they could make this, if they just got rid of some of the guys you talked about, straight cuts.
Oh, let alone trade them
and
for
some of them
picks,
restructures and things of that nature is the only way that they can make it work, and that would just get them back to even with the cap.
Because they're in terrible shape right now.
Yeah, they're in terrible shape now. They're going to have to roll over the $30 million they saved this year. That gets them within $10 million of the cap.
Yep.
They're going to restructure Watson again.
Which is insane.
They
keep doing that, right?
They keep kicking the can down the road on this, and it doesn't make it any better, but they have to do it to get cap compliant. And then you're cutting the Jack Conklins. You're restructuring Joel. You're cutting Batonio.
I would think,
you're
right?
restructuring
anyone that's 6 years or older, probably.
Wyatt Teller gets restructured. And then you look at the rest of their roster, and everybody on the roster is making $2 million or less.
Then you're just bad.
Those guys, you can't do anything with those guys.
Right. So there's only a couple guys you can go to the bank of. They already traded Cooper,
And that just gets them to even after
just to keep your head above
after
water.
Getting rid of Garrett. And you don't have those players.
And you don't have those players. And you're not going to win any games. You don't have a quarterback. And now you don't have no line.
Now you have to go sign Kirk Cousins because he's going to be cheap.
Because he's cheap. But does he want to go there?
Does he want to, A, does he want to go there? And B, can he play a lick at this point if you put him, especially if you put him behind
running game and
an offensive line that has no offensive tackles?
Right.
You've opened a hole at guard.
Right. It's a disaster. I think that they might win 0 games next year. You know what I mean? I mean, that's extreme, but I think they might have the first pick in the draft. I mean, they're really in a bad situation here. If Garrett's not going to play for them.
They're in a bad situation even if Garrett does.
Yes. Them and the Saints are the worst. I mean, don't want to be their GM.
That's where all this stuff is coming from with Garrett, because I saw some stories. He's been sitting down and talking with management about their future plan. Mm-hmm. How are we getting out of this whole situation?
Yeah. We all know the Watson deal's bad.
And he is not on board to go out there and win 2 games again this year.
Right. And then be 31 before he knows it and ship sailed. No. And frankly, he shouldn't be. And from what I understand, Browns fans are on his side. I get it. I wouldn't either. So we all know the Watson deal. I don't know about in sports, but in NFL history is the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Even if he was as good as Dak Prescott, which is pretty good, it's still a bad deal. You know what I mean? It's just still a bad deal. The fact that he's horrendous makes it times 1,000, and he's never going to play.
It makes it times 1,000,000.
Right.
Yeah.
The fact he's not going to play might be a positive. It's unbelievable.
It's.
I mean, deal with the devil.
They did, and the devil burned him.
Right. No one feels bad. I don't think any of the other owners feel bad. This isn't like a Ryan Shazier situation.
I guarantee you, none of the owners feel bad. They were spitting nails
he was
at the owners' meetings after that deal was done.
That's the guy you're
going to give guaranteed money to. The guy who's
got all the off-field stuff. It's insane, and all the picks that they could have had. I mean, multiple firsts. What their roster would look like would be so much better.
It might take them 5 years. From this point on to recover from that mistake.
It's one of the few times where I think bottoming out is your only choice
because you had no picks.
Right.
That whole time that you had picks, but you didn't have high picks, so you've replaced nobody of your roster is a bunch of high-paid guys and a bunch of guys making less than $2 million. There's no middle class at all.
Nope. And so the only optimism is this upcoming draft is the first time that they have like the most draft capital of anyone in the league. Well, they're picking high. They traded Cooper for a third. You could at least say from this draft on, we're going to build the roster for 5 years from now.
But they're going to need everything.
But they need everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is why they shouldn't take a quarterback this year.
No.
At 2.
No, because they're going to be really bad.
Because that quarterback's going to be Tim Couch, and 3 years from now is going to be, having guys. He's going to be seeing ghosts rushing him from the, when he's in the bathroom shaving in the morning. Oh,
yeah. If you're going to take Abdul Carter to hopefully be your next Myles Garrett, I get that.
Yeah.
That's cool. If you're going to trade down, you're going to picks for next year. There's like a no-win situation. Because I believe, like you said, the Conklins and Batonios that are getting up in age have to go.
Yeah.
I mean, assuming Garrett gets out of Cleveland at some point, that's your only option now. I mean, you at least could have told yourself a story of, we'll restructure those guys. Our defense will get back to last year. Myles Garrett will win Defensive Player of the Year. We'll sign Cousins and compete. But that would have been wrong, too.
Yeah.
This way, I think it only leaves you one path. Be bad, bad, bad.
It just makes it all the more baffling why they did stuff like signing Jerry Jeudy to a new deal after they traded him.
He was a name I was thinking of, too. Like, do you trade him now? That was a bad contract to begin with.
Yeah, I mean,
like, who else could you get something for that? I mean, there's not many players. JOK? Like, again, if you're truly not going to be good for 2 years minimum, probably 3 or 4, maybe 5, who's part of the long-term plans? I think all the people part of the long-term plans are the guys you're about to draft and younger.
Deshaun Watson's cap number.
Isn't it like 80-something?
It's $72.9 million.
Yeah.
On the salary cap next year, and he's not going to play.
Yeah, he's not going to play, and if he did, it would be bad. They're happy he's not going to play because he stinks so bad.
Denzel Ward's cap hit is $24.5 million.
Could you get him for a 7th-round pick? Yes.
Myles Garrett's $19.7 million. Jack Conklin, $19.1. Joel Bitonio, $14.3. Wyatt Teller, $14.1. Greg Newsome, $13.3. Jedrick Wills, it was $11.8 next year.
I thought he was up after this year. Oh, they picked up his 5th-year option.
Yeah.
Bad move, too. He hardly played this year. I think he was like, I thought they were happy to have him sit out, too.
Dalvin Tomlinson is 11.4. David Njoku's 11.3. Jerry Jeudy's, the cost is only 7.9, but
because they just signed him.
Because they just signed him. Ethan Posick is $7.7 million. Like,
I think, again, I've said this a million times. I think their only path is any of those names you just mentioned. If you want them, we have to dump them, assuming we trade Garrett, which puts us backwards. And therefore, we're going to be the worst team in the league. And it might not even be close.
It might not be close. You're right. I mean,
who's going to line up and who's going to be your 11?
You might
not to mention when a couple injuries hit.
You might not have an offensive line.
Right. I mean, the hard things to fill. You better start drafting O-linemen like crazy now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way Nick Chubb's back or any of their UFAs.
And they already have in dead money on their roster for next year. $22.5 million for Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
$14.2 million for Zadarius Smith, and then some other ones.
I forgot they traded him.
They have $39.97 million in dead money for next year on their roster.
And nothing to show for it.
Nothing to show for it.
Right.
And your quarterback, who counts $72 million against your cap, isn't going to play next year either. So
I don't know if he'll be like welcome in the building.
40% of your cap next year is going to be tied up in guys who aren't going to play it down for you.
Neither one of us are believers in tanking, but that's their only option. be the
it's
worst
not even
team.
going to be tanking.
It's just going to be
bad.
this is as bad as good as it can be, right?
I mean, this is just what they've set themselves up for.
I mean, it's an easy this thing. And Myles Garrett knows all this. His agent figured all this stuff out for him and said, and he's a smart guy anyway. He's in the locker room every day, and Conklin goes, "I'm not going to be here next year."
Yeah.
Well, who is going to be my right tackle? Nobody.
Nobody.
Right. DeJuan Jones and a couple. I mean, even if you just look at their recent drafts, again, the whole organization almost starts on draft day this year. And finally, you actually have good picks. But who on their first contract is worth a crap right now?
It's horrendous.
DeJuan Jones, I guess, is a starter. JOK, they haven't paid yet. Okay. I mean, I'm reaching here.
This was them going for it.
Right.
Going for it.
Right. And even like the Thornhills of the world, I'm sure you could pry away from them and, decent starters.
It's the worst cap situation I've ever seen.
Again. And that would be a little more feasible if you hadn't given up all those first-round picks for Watson, if you at least had 10 guys on rookie contracts that were good players.
Well, actually,
they have none.
So Jedrick Wills is voided. He's actually not under contract. They just owe him $11.8 million.
I'm saying I didn't think he's going to come back because he basically was a healthy scratch.
Same thing for Jameis Winston. He's a void on this and $2.23 million.
Okay.
For it's just the.
So is Thompson Robinson their only quarterback under contract? Assuming Watson's
that
out?
would be correct. Yes.
He might be the opening day starter on purpose again to try to win 0 games.
It's just amazingly bad.
Amazingly bad. This is a 4-year project.
Yeah.
I mean, 3 to 5.
Yeah.
I can't imagine them being good in 2026.
Maybe not 27.
Right.
I mean, that
won't be good in 25.
I mean, it counts on them getting everything right.
Abdul Carter could be Defensive Rookie of the Year, and they found a quarterback in the 5th round who's a Dak Prescott, and they still would stink.
Yeah.
I mean, who's going to block for him? I mean, nothing.
It's bad.
Some of those veterans are going to be gone.
Yeah, it's bad. Really bad. But anyways, let's get to a break. He is.
I'd take Denzel Ward off their hands, but they're not going to make a deal with the Steelers.
No. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. This is The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back to finish up the show right after this. And we are back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt mentioned it there to Bob Labriola. I was just starting to dig in a little bit on the Super Bowl here. I know a little late to the party on this one, but we've been tied up with some draft stuff here. But defense, I think when people look at these two teams in the Super Bowl, the Eagles and the Chiefs, they think, well, these are two high-flying offenses. And that's not the case.
No.
The Eagles averaged 27.2 points per game, which is good. It was 7th in the league, though. The Chiefs averaged 22.6 points per game this season, which was 15th, one spot ahead of the Steelers, 0.2 points ahead per game ahead of the Steelers.
Yes. The one thing I'll fight you on, though, is playoffs, and really since Christmas, they've been lighting people on fire.
I understand that.
Yeah, I mean, they're a little different than everybody else.
But these teams got here based on their defenses.
100%.
You have the number 2 scoring defense, and you have the number 4 scoring defense.
Yes, and the offense kind of figured things. Kansas City's different than every other team in the league.
They also got healthy at the end.
Exactly.
You finally got Pacheco back. You finally got Hollywood Brown back. Not that they've been major producers, but they gave you more.
That's what I mean by figured things out. Like Tooney's now your left tackle. Is that perfect? No, but it's not a disaster at left tackle right now. Health has been your friend. Mahomes is pretty good. Kelsey is rested. But that's they have that luxury. I mean, they not that they can put it in cruise control in the regular season, but the defense and Mahomes allowed them to kind of put it in cruise control while they figured this other stuff out.
Yeah.
But you're right. Defense is still super important. There's no doubt in my mind.
I mean, we don't have 2 of the top 5 scoring offenses in the Super Bowl. We have 2 of the top 5 defenses in the Super Bowl.
And one of the words you said was high flying. The Chiefs are anything but high flying. I mean, they are ball control.
It's like I saw a thing like 40.
They don't throw deep at all.
40% of Mahomes' throws or something along those lines were behind the line of scrimmage.
I know his deep stuff is horrible.
Yeah.
He's one of the worst deep passers in the league. It's not his fault.
No, he throws behind the line of scrimmage more than any quarterback in the league.
Mm-hmm. Everything is ball control.
It's Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. And the Eagles, They get explosives from the run game. They don't get it from the pass game. So they've done things different too.
Yeah, it makes me wonder, the over-under for the Super Bowl is 48.5. It's a pretty big number when you've got two of the top 4 defenses on the field. The more
I think about my initial thoughts, and I'm leaning this way too, is I think it's a low-scoring game. Yeah. They might be the 2 best defensive coordinators in the league. I mean, it's Fangio and Spags. These guys know what they're doing.
They got 2 weeks to get ready for it.
Yeah. And what's interesting too, though, is like the Eagles are the best defense in the league at taking away the deep ball, but Kansas City doesn't care. Yeah, but they're also great after the catch. Kansas City does care.
Philadelphia also has the cornerbacks to get up and play press man against these guys,
big time. And like KC's O-line is in better shape than it was, but your left guard against Milton Williams is a problem. Trey Smith, who's about to become the highest paid right guard in the league, almost has to be alone with Jalen Carter now. Ugh.
Although he's sick this week.
Carter is?
Yeah.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Dealing with a little illness, but it's
a good matchup.
I think it's going to be a defensive game.
I've been leaning that way heavy. I mean, I just trust the defenses. I trust the coordinators. Now, could Mahomes figure this thing out in the fourth quarter and put up 17 points in the fourth quarter? Yeah, maybe. But
well, that's the other thing on the other side of that, though, is that Philadelphia is a ball control team.
They both are.
They're going to run the football. It's going to be a time of possession game.
Yeah, and a couple things really stand out about the Chiefs. Like, even during the Mahomes era, their games averaged the fewest possessions of all 32 teams. And that's when they had Tyreek, and they were high-flying part of those times. And I don't think they're going to run the ball hardly at all. Mahomes is going to throw like crazy, but to your point, I bet it's at the line of scrimmage. Yeah. It's picky apart, crosser, Xavier. Like Xavier Worthy's a vertical or a horizontal receiver. Yeah, even with his speed. And their ball control is just different. I mean, I think both these teams are going to play keep away, control the football, time of possession, which just doesn't lead to a lot of points unless there's defensive scores or weird stuff.
So what we're saying is play the under.
That's the way I'm leaning. That seems like a big number to me.
Yeah, I mean, and 48.5 is a lot in today's NFL.
I mean, Mahomes, Hurts, Barkley, you'd think points galore. I don't see it that way.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't either. But we'll see. We'll talk more about the game here.
It's a good matchup.
As we get closer to it here. We've kind of not ignored it, but we've not talked a lot about it.
Spent 2 weeks on it. All right.
Yeah, everybody is talking about it here. We don't need to beat it to death, but we will talk
just saw these teams, and everybody's seen these teams a lot lately.
Yeah, absolutely. But, Matt, that's going to do it for today's show. So for my partner, Matt Williamson, for Justin Miller here on site running the Justin Miller hotline, and for our guest today, Helium Bob Labriola.
Yeah, and the Chipmunks.
And for Tyler Vittmeyer, making sure our video gets out there onto YouTube. I am Dale Lolley. We thank you for listening to this edition of The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.